Is this a coral animal print puff sleeve shirt? Yeah, it is. Hey everybody, with it being the beginning of August and a brand new school year that is right around the corner, I wanted to go ahead and share 5 lessons that I think all teachers should teach during that first week of school. And these are going to specifically be for kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers. That first week of school can be a difficult one for our youngest learners, and it's filled with many different emotions. Your students might be scared, nervous, excited, sad, in a whole mix. They probably feel, a little bit of all of those emotions. So your job as the teacher is to make this week as low stress as it can be so your students start to feel comfortable. That being said, there are a ton of different lessons you're going to teach during that first week of school, so I just narrowed it down to 5 easy ones that I want to make sure you include this upcoming year. If you've watched my videos before, then welcome back, and if not, my name is Susan Jones. I'm a former first grade and K-2 literacy teacher who now spends a lot of time sharing tips, ideas, and videos just like this here on YouTube every Thursday and Sunday. So go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and let's dive in. Before I dive in, I should mention that these lessons are in no particular order, and these definitely are not all the lessons you are going to be teaching that first week. These are just 5 good ones that I think you should sprinkle in throughout that first week of school. The first lesson is going to be to teach students about their classroom schedule. Now, during that first week of school, I go ahead and I follow my regular daily schedule each and every day. It might not look the same during week 1. Actually, it's definitely not going to look the same week 1 versus week 4 because the lessons that we teach inside each subject block are much different. They're going to get longer, but I do like to kind of keep them on that same schedule so they can start getting used to that faster. So in my classroom, we would always have a morning meeting. So when my students walked into school on that first day, I would have them hang up their backpacks so they would find their cubby, which is what they would normally do. And they would find their cubby with their name on it, hang up their backpack, and then they would go meet on the rug. Now, that first day of school, you're not really too worried about, any behavioral issues just yet, knock on wood, because students are pretty shy, they're getting to know one another. So instead, when they're sitting on the circle, they might be waiting a little longer than they normally would for things to get started, but they kind of just sit there and look at each other. Sometimes they start talking. It's a cute kind of way to get them introduced to one another. As you're following your daily schedule, during each of those subject blocks, you are going to teach a very, very low stress activity. So you're not even really teaching them anything yet. In fact, you're actually just showing them the procedures and where materials are for each subject. So for instance, math, in the past, I've done a little button sort. You can do a little cube sort like this, where students can simply go over, or they can have a bag already of buttons or cubes. They can sort them by color, fill out a little graph independently, and then they can put those cubes back where they belong. So students can find out where those materials are going to live throughout the year in your classroom. For reading, we always do a read aloud, so I would teach students how to come over to the rug. You can show them where they're going to sit during this time. Do they sit in a circle? Do they have spots? Do they sit in rows? Whatever that might look like, and then you should definitely read a fun book. And the same during writing. During writing, they will find out where their pencils are, if they have a writing folder. They're not going to find out all of this on day 1. You'll probably break it up throughout the week, but I actually just shared, I think last week, a video with some first week of school writing activities that I have students do. Again, you want to keep them all low stress. They're not really learning anything yet. They're just getting used to what the day is going to look like and feel like in your classroom. Now, quick little side note before I go into lesson number 2, I do definitely follow my same schedule, but of course, if I have an hour-long reading block, my little read aloud and, activity is not going to take an hour, most likely, on that first day. So you will have all these other opportunities to teach those procedures, show them where the bathrooms are, and do some of these other lessons as well. All right, lesson number 2 kind of goes along with those procedures, and you are going to want to teach where supplies are in your classroom. Now, this is a lesson I like to teach towards the end of that first week of school because, again, as you're following your daily schedule, students are going to learn where new things go, where they can find new things, where they put them back, etc. And I actually love to do this with a little kind of scavenger hunt or a classroom checklist, as I call it, and it looks like this. I actually have this free for you listed below, but I like to have students do this with a partner, and they will kind of go through each of these things and put a check mark after they find it. So they will show each other where their seats are, they will find some crayons, they'll tell a partner where the closest bathroom is, so they won't go there, but they will tell them where it is. How you would walk to the lunchroom, so they'll try to remember how you go there, where you put your backpacks, scissors, show your partner where to sharpen a pencil, show them the classroom library, find some glue, and tell your partner where you go for dismissal. I love a little checklist like that because it helps you, the teacher, see who might be struggling to remember any of these things, and also if you need to teach anything else this week. And it lets students get with a partner and just feel more comfortable in their own classroom by sharing where they can find everything. Okay, lesson number 3 that you'll want to teach students is a lesson called I Am Good At. Now, I particularly like this lesson in our K-2 classrooms because your students are going to face some difficult experiences coming up, whether it's academic challenges or social emotional challenges, things like that they just maybe never have experienced before. And this is a good time, while their anxieties might be a little bit high, to remind them of what they are good at and what they are capable of. Now, I usually like to use a little graphic organizer like this one right here. It's just an easy kind of bubble chart where they can go ahead and color in that picture of themselves. But students will simply list out or draw things that they are good at. Now, your second grade students are probably going to have a little bit more self-awareness and identity, where they can figure out maybe some academic things that they're already really good at, or again, some social emotional things that they're good at. But with your K-1 learners, you're going to want to coach them and brainstorm with them a little bit first. You might want to have them think about some things that they are great at on the playground. Maybe they are really good at the monkey bars or going down the slide, or things that they can do outdoors. Maybe they've learned how to swim, or they're good at building sand castles. Have them think of some games that they're good at, whether it be physical games like soccer, basketball, or even just some like board games that they play at home. Maybe they're really good at tag. Maybe they're really fast. I also like for them to think about some things about themselves. For instance, they might be really good at being kind. They might be really good at being a big brother or a big sister. I want them to really take this time and, again, identify some things that they are really good at so we can cheer them on. It's just a great little feel-good lesson to fit in between any of your subject blocks. You could also just do this one during your writing time as well. Lesson number 4 that should definitely be done during that first week of school is to create your classroom rules together. Now, hopefully over the last few years or so, you have learned about the importance of creating your rules together. So you don't necessarily just want to buy a little anchor chart and throw it up there. You want to have your students be a part of this rule creating process. Now, if you are in second grade, you might be able to have your students meet in some small groups and brainstorm some great rules, and then kind of bring them back together as a class to discuss and choose what one should go on our classroom rule chart. But again, in kindergarten and first grade, you'll probably want to do this a little bit more whole group. Now, when talking about creating our classroom rules together, I'm not necessarily talking about, sitting on the rug, crisscross applesauce, or raising our hand before we speak, or, bathroom procedures, things like that. Those will come into play, but when we are crafting our own classroom rules as a community, I like to focus on some bigger skills. I like to make sure I focus on things like respect and teamwork. I like to talk about responsibility and being a kind friend. I like to talk about how we should try our best and how we can be helpful to our classmates. Each of those things are something we'll go into even further as we read different stories and we come up with classroom scenarios, and just naturally as things happen in our classroom. But that's kind of where I like to lay the groundwork. So an example of a rule might sound like, we are respectful to our teachers and our classmates. And of course, we would go over, what does respectful look like? What does it sound like? What are some examples of being respectful towards our classmates? And does that look the same or different as being respectful to a teacher? I don't know. Let's chat. So our main classroom rules sound like that, and those get displayed throughout the entire year in our classroom. Now, you may be wondering, okay, Susan, you said you wanted us to create these rules together, but my kindergarten student isn't going to come in and say, oh, I have a rule, it should be that we are respectful towards one another. They might not use those words. So what you will want to do is actually name that. So when a student says, oh, we should raise our hand before we speak, or something else that shows respect, right? We shouldn't talk over one another. Whatever it may be, you will want to name that as being respectful. And you can actually give a few other examples just so they're used to this already, and then you can come up with that statement, we are respectful to our classmates and our teachers. So this whole lesson within itself is kind of a great way to get those ideas started with your young learners. Okay, and lesson number 5 you're going to want to teach during that first week of school is how to be safe in our classroom and school. Now, this is likely going to be a variety of different lessons, but this is an important one, especially with our K through 2 learners. This might be their first time in this new school building, definitely the first time in your classroom. So there are some different rules that you'll want to go over. Now, the first and biggest one that comes to mind that you'll definitely teach throughout those first days of school is going to be dismissal procedures. Whether that student is going on the bus, whether they are walking home, whether there is a pickup line, this is one of the most kind of stressful times for a teacher because you just want to make sure everybody gets home and they get home safely. So whatever your procedure is, whether you have to make eye contact with whoever's picking up the student and then high five them, whatever your procedures are, make sure they are crystal clear to your students and spend extra time kind of making sure students understand what they can and cannot do. For example, when they see their parent or guardian out on the playground, they might not be allowed to just go run to them. They probably have to tell you first and check in before they leave. Every school has vastly different procedures, so find out what yours are and make sure your students know them as well. Some other safety lessons you might want to talk about with your own class might include if you have any exterior doors or exterior windows in your classroom. My old classroom, I actually had 2 exterior doors, so we talked a lot about they cannot go over to that door, they cannot open that door, etc. Only a teacher is allowed to. In fact, they were not allowed to leave the classroom without a teacher knowing first. So if your bathroom is not in your classroom, they're not allowed to just leave. And we talk about not just you can't do this, but we talk about why that is too. And we talk about, again, that safety of you being with a teacher. The teacher is your guardian while you are in school, and we just want to keep you safe. As I'm thinking about safety, another thing that comes to mind are scissors. If you are a kindergarten teacher, you are probably going to want to spend quite a bit of time on scissor safety, how you walk with scissors, how you hold scissors, how scissors can actually be pretty dangerous. Little things like that. You might have some safety procedures out at recess, where students should line up when they come back from recess. And again, that's so we can make sure that we know where all of our students are and we all stay together. Walking around the building, depending on the size of your campus or your school, you might have students always go somewhere with a buddy to make sure that they return. These are just ones I'm thinking of off the top of my head right now, but they all fall under that umbrella of we are safe in our classroom and in our school. And again, we always emphasize why we need to be safe and that we as teachers are just looking out for the best interests of our students. Okay, so there were just 5 of my favorite lessons I make sure I teach during that first week of school. I know there are so many more, so let me know what are some of your favorite lessons that you teach. Drop them down in the comments below and we can take a look. This will help us be a little more prepared as we go into a new school year. I hope you were able to grab a new idea or just get a little refresh before you head back to school. If you do want to grab that classroom checklist, remember it looks like this. I will drop that down in the description for you to grab. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That bell helps you get notified of every new video I upload. See you in the next one. Bye.